If you're 18 years old, this video could literally be worth over $1 million. Now, to start off with, of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. So, everybody wants to get rich quick, but the odds of that happening are obviously extremely slim. This method that I'm going to be talking to you guys about today is slow, but it's, technically easy. And this is something that I wish that they taught in schools. I don't know if they do nowadays. When I was in school, I never learned anything of this sort, and I really wish that I did because I would probably be ahead of where I am today. I'm blessed to be in the spot that I am right now financially, but of course, having this knowledge at an earlier age would have been extremely beneficial for me, which is why I'm making this video for you guys. So to start off, the S&P 500 has a historical average return of 10%. So that being said, if you're 18 years old and you're watching this video and you start to invest $100 per month into the S&P 500 from the age of 18 until the age of 65, which is the average retirement age. Now, a lot of people look at that and they're like, okay, that's probably not going to be any money, right? And when you look at your contributions themselves from 18 to 65, that 47-year period, the contributions themselves are only around $50,000. In fact, it's $56,400. So a lot of people look at that and they're like, okay, I'm not going to make a lot of money off of contributing $56,400. But the big thing in this situation is the time that the money has been in the market. So if you look at it and you take out this calculation, the interest you've made over that amount of time, over those 47 years, is over $1 million itself. It's actually $1,045,823. So your end balance actually comes out to $1,102,223, all from just $100 a month. So, a lot of people aren't going to be able to necessarily get an extra $100 a month. So for that, I would say, for example, even at minimum wage where I live, you can work an extra, say, 6 hours or so per month to get around the $100 mark. Whether you do, say, for example, one weekend you work all 6 hours, you do, a couple hours per weekend to work it out. Or even say, for example, you look at your bank statements and you realize that, you've got some subscriptions or something like that you don't necessarily need. I know for me, for example, I recently looked at my statement and saw that there were two subscriptions that I don't even use. So I went and canceled them, and those totaled out to, I believe, around $45, which is almost half of the amount of, being $100 a month in contributions potentially. So any way you can, of course, it's going to be more difficult when you're younger to get that extra $100 a month that you can contribute, but any way you can is going to be so beneficial for you, and especially starting at such a young age. One of the hardest things about this process is to not touch the money. A lot of people will get partway through this process and start taking money from it, but that kills it, or at least, it makes it harder to get back because you're affecting the compounding effect itself, right? So say, for example, you get to a point in your life where you have $100,000 in that account and you're like, okay, I want to do a renovation. Say, for example, you have a house. I want to do a renovation on the kitchen. I'm going to take out, $10,000 to $20,000. But what that's going to do is that's going to, of course, obviously decrease the amount of money that's in the account, which means that your compounding effect, or the percentage return that you're making each year on your money, is going to be less because you took money out of the account. Now, another big question is, why is it so important that I start early? Well, the person who starts first doesn't win because they're smarter. They won because they started earlier. So, the two big variables in this situation is, well, of course, money is a big variable. People say it takes money to make money. And while that's partially true, there's one other massive variable, and that is time. So the time in the markets, which is why it's so important to start as early as you can. So say, for example, if you did this exact same process, but you started at the age of 28 instead of 18, your total amount at the age of retirement would be $417,187, which is less than half of what it would be if you started when you were 18. Another example, you start when you're 38, it's going to only equal $153,076. And then finally, if you started when you were 48 and went until your retirement age, it would only be a little over 50,000. It would actually be 51,250. So obviously you can see by those examples that, like I said, money is very important for making more money, but time in the market is absolutely massive. And you can tell again by the fact that if you started when you're 18, your contributions are only around $56,000. The interest made on it is over $1 million. Now, another big misconception is that people think investing is something you do once you're making six figures. The truth is that the habit matters more than the amount at the beginning, right? So your $100 a month that you're putting in when you're younger is so, so valuable because all of that amount is compounding. Your money is working for you over that stretch of 47 years. So, the amounts you're putting at the beginning matter because it's the time of that money being in the market rather than just, waiting until you make six figures and then starting to make contributions because you don't have as much time as you did when, say, for example, you're starting when you're 18 years old. Now, an easy way to build that habit, or actually not even really have to build that habit, is to start auto investing or auto deposits, where you don't even notice it, or you don't even have to remember to do it yourself because you can just go to your bank and ask them to auto deposit the money into a specific account, which maybe we'll talk about in a future video. But for the sake of today, you're auto depositing that money into accounts. And you don't even have to think about it, right? You can kind of forget that it's happening. It's automatically doing it for you. And that's an easy way to build that habit. And as I mentioned, of course, any amounts at the beginning are important, maybe even more important than later on because the other significant variable is going to be time. Now, there are several traps that you may run into along this path. The first being consistency. Now, as we just talked about, consistency, that means, of course, just the consistency in terms of putting the money into that account, doing the investments. But an easy way to get around that, of course, is your auto deposits or auto investments, right? You can get around the consistency trap by you don't even necessarily have to do anything. It does it for you. Now, the second one would be not panic selling. So in the market, there's going to be dips. You just need to learn how to ride the waves, right? We talked about the S&P 500 having a historical average return of 10%. That includes all the downtimes, right? There's going to be downtime, there's going to be up times, there's going to be times when it's stagnant. You just need to be able to ride the wave. And if you're starting at a super early age, it's so much easier to do that because you're in it for the long run, right? You're not expecting this money to it's like I said, it's not a get rich quick scheme, right? You're not expecting to have $200,000 after 1 year that you have to worry about keeping, right? It's a long game. This is a long, long process, which is why it can be a little bit boring, but it's something that's, quote unquote, easier. The fourth thing would be ignoring hype. Now, there's all these, cryptocurrencies or, fancy stocks that are all shiny and stuff like that. And people, they get fear of missing out or FOMO and they're like, oh, I have to invest in this. I have to put so much money into this. It's important that you ignore the hype. You stick to the process, you keep your time in the market, and you're not pulling your money out, right? That's going to be so massive. And then the fourth and final thing, again, is continuing during downtimes, right? A lot of people will see the market dip and they'll be like, okay, I need to pull my money out. I need to, stop my investments into it. But that's actually the wrong thing to do. First off, if you pull out your money when the market is down, it means you're taking out your money at a loss. You're losing money, right? And then also, the other big thing is if you stop your contributions, you're actually missing out on buying the dip, which means you're essentially buying at a discount, right? So your $100 per month that you're investing or you're contributing is actually worth more when the market is down because you're getting more in comparison to when, say, for example, you're contributing $100 a month when the market is kind of flatlined or when the market is up because you're buying at, essentially a premium in that situation. So most people chase the get rich quick schemes that have a crazy low chance of success. And this is a way more proven way of building wealth. It's slow and it's boring. Yes, can't lie about that. So most people ignore it. But the thing is that it works. So many people have gotten rich off this method. It's that a lot of people don't do it because it's not that shiny thing, right? Like we talked about, it's not that shiny stock. It's not that shiny cryptocurrency. It's not this, make it $1 million in 1 year scheme, right? It's something that works, but it's boring. And in reality, even if you insist on trying a faster method, this in the background, right? Again, at the end of the day, it's only $100 a month. I know that's easier, said than done for some people, but it's only $100 a month, right? So if you say, for example, want to have this going on in the background, you have your auto deposits set up, your auto investments, and it's automatically doing it. And you can be trying things on the other side. I'm not necessarily advocating for anything specifically, but you can have this going on in the background and it's going to be building over time. Or you can increase your contributions to speed up the timeline, right? You don't have to stay at $100 per month for this method. There's people who do $100 a month. There's people who do 250, 500, 1,000, right? It all depends on your comfortability and what you want to do. But that's another idea as well. So again, yes, it's slow. Yes, it can be boring, right? But it is a proven way to build wealth. And that's what this channel is all about. It's not about overnight success or pretending to be at the finish line already. It's about documenting what works and building wealth the realistic way. So if that's the kind of finance content you've been looking for, I'd love to have you along for the journey. You can subscribe to this channel for more videos. But that's all from me today, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to reply to them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.